All right, welcome to another edition of the Leadership Standard. My name is Buchilo, and I'm excited to have you here with me tonight, this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are watching me from. Again, my name is Buchilo, and I'm your host for this episode of the Leadership Standard. Thank you and welcome. So today I want to talk about the indiscriminate profiling of Igbo people living in Nigeria, West Africa. For those who don't know, the Igbo people in Nigeria, West Africa are, a very small minority tribe, and they live in the southeast Nigeria, but they migrate to other parts of Nigeria. And currently, there is a huge profiling happening to them, happening to their businesses, and happening to the way of life per se. I have to use that, and they have been targeted for killings, most especially by the Nigerian state. So let's talk about some few things, okay? About a story of Igbo people accusing the Nigerian government of actually shutting down their businesses, right? Like literally shutting down their businesses. So this is one of them right now.
On inquiry this morning, traders in Akorede market. A market at Ijesha Express are stranded outside the gate. On inquiry, we are informed that the local government chairman ordered the locking of the markets for no reason whatsoever. And it is generally believed that this is fallout of the just concluded election, where some section of the country residing in Lagos are being ordered to leave Lagos or be frustrated out. Please, we want the authorities concerned to find out from the local government chairman his reason for locking traders in this market out today, Monday, dated 2023.
As you can see, they're locking traders out of their businesses. These are people who are predominantly Igbo people. They're being locked out of their businesses. I can tell you exactly where the minds of these people are. It's more of a insult that people will be locked out of their own businesses that they pay for taxes by some unscrupulous people that feel they have power over these people and can hold them to ransom. That's because they are profiling the Igbo people. And you may not accept it, but that is what the statistics have been showing. There have been a high increase of killings, high increase of destruction of properties belonging to Igbo people in Nigeria. All right, so we can say whatever we want to say, but that is exactly the truth. That is what's happening right now. That's what's happening right now. And we have to ask ourselves, how long are we going to let this continue? How long is this going to continue? Like, for how long are we going to continue to be set up by people that have no desire for human rights and indiscriminately punishing innocent people? That's what we have to ask ourselves. Indiscriminately punishing innocent people that have done nothing against them. Exactly. You know? So that's what we have to ask ourselves. Now let me play another video for you so that you understand exactly where I'm coming from. Because a lot's been happening and a lot of Igbo people have been targeted. They've been targeted for discrimination They've been targeted for all types of things. Now, this is even for deaths. This is a young man who was killed. Onyeka Ibe was killed along Ubolo Ila Road in Asaba Delta State. He was killed indiscriminately. Amnesty International take up the story and have said that it is sad and horrifying that police officers that are meant to protect lives are taking it with impunity. The investigation of this matter must lead to justice, and the erring police officers must face prosecution in independent and impartial public trials. Reckless resort of the police to deadly force is a human rights violation. It is unacceptable that despite many pledges of reform and ending torture and extrajudicial killings, police in Nigeria continue to operate with complete impunity while fomenting a toxic climate of fear and corruption. That's from Amnesty International. That can show you exactly where the minds of the police in Nigeria is right now. Its mind is to the killings and destruction of people's lives and properties. Not all of them, but most of them. By the actions that they take, year in, year out, they keep making the same mistakes. This man who was killed, also an Igbo person. And it's not just Igbo people. They do this to all types of people that live in Nigeria at the moment. Anyone can be their target. You only have to ask God for protection. So that's what I'm saying. But now let's not even talk about the root problem of all of this. Why is this happening? Premium Times came up with a story. All right. It says sub-Saharan Africa conflicts continue to cause suffering amid double standards and failure of leadership. Failure of leadership. I keep saying that in this broadcast. Africa has a failure of leadership problem. It has a failure of leadership problem. The problem with Africa is that this leadership is failing. We don't have a leadership that is about progress and prosperity of the people, but rather concerned about their own circle of influence, their circle of dominance, their circle of elitism. That's the word, elitism, where they protect their elitist self from the law, and there's double standards for that. You know what I'm saying? So when you think about it, you see that sub-Saharan Africa conflicts continue to cause suffering amid double standards, failure of leadership. Amnesty International's report for 2022 highlights double standards throughout the world on human rights and the failure of the international community to unite around consistently applied human rights and universal values to protect rights. Women's rights, as well as the freedom to protest, are threatened as states fail to protect and respect rights at home. As the Universal Declaration of Human Rights turns 75, Amnesty International insists that a rules-based international system must be founded on human rights and applied to everyone, everywhere. A rules-based. The Russia full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022 generated a global energy and food crisis which hit Africa hard and has sought to further disrupt its weak multilateral and regional systems meant to protect human rights on the continent. Africa was already facing a long, slow recovery from COVID-19, but the ongoing Russian war in Ukraine has resulted in a spike in global oil prices, which has driven commodities higher, making it difficult for ordinary people to afford food and basic necessities. Many people are barely surviving in fragile economies such as Zimbabwe, Liberia, but shameless failure of leadership paves way for further abuses. Despite widespread conflict across West, Central, East, and Southern Africa, limited progress was made towards ensuring victims' rights to truth, justice, reparation, and accountability for the grave violations and abuses of human rights that may amount to crimes under international law. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine triggered one of Europe's worst humanitarian and human rights emergencies in recent history, exposing what has been a reality for many in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Central African Republic, South Sudan, Mozambique, and the Sahel, and a terrible failure of leadership to resolve these conflicts. Failure of leadership. That's what it's all about. There's been a rise in conflict, in killings, because of the failure of leadership. So until we tell ourselves the truth, we have to ask ourselves, for how long are we going to continue in this cycle of leadership failure, where people's rights are violated, where women's rights are violated, where people don't care about the next person's human rights and doesn't mind violating the other person's human rights? Those are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. How long are we going to continue like this? Because it's affecting everybody. Whether you're rich or you're poor, the failure of leadership will affect everybody equally. Right? Because the only thing that is going to differentiate between whether you're rich or you're poor is money, right? But the effect of a leadership failure, it cuts across even whether you have money or not. Because a bad healthcare system is the reason why Ike Ekweremadu is in a UK prison right now. A bad healthcare system, right? Because if he was concerned about creating a good healthcare system in Nigeria when he was Senate president, he wouldn't have to be running around the world looking for all that stuff. There will be possibilities of him doing his surgery or whatever it is that he needed in Nigeria. But nobody ever thinks about those things. Nobody thinks that when they leave money abroad and they die, all that money they've left abroad, if it's not claimed, will become property of the country they've left it at. Nobody ever thinks about that. So all that, what then happens is there's a cycle of poverty. But people just throw money into problems that never really solve the problems. Right? They throw money into problems that never really solve the problems. But if you look at it from a holistic perspective, leadership must be seen from a holistic perspective and not from a personal perspective. Leadership is holistic, benefit of everybody. How do you benefit everybody? And if we've not been able to answer that question as a country, we are not going to make progress as a country. Because progress is not just one person making progress. Progress is everybody making progress. That's how you define progress. If only few people are making progress, then there is no progress. Everybody has to make progress. That's how you truly define progress. But if a few people who have all the money and all the power and all the things that they can use in their disposal, which belong to the public, to intimidate the same public that they are called to serve, then it becomes a problem. It is not progress. It now becomes a problem. And that is what Africa is facing right now. It's facing a crisis of problems, multiple problems. Most especially Nigeria, multiple problems. That's why it's always in circles. Because if you're always facing problems, you'd always be in circles because you can't even finish one before you get into the other one. But that's my only 2 cents about that. I want to thank everyone for watching. Hope you had a great time. This is the Leadership Standard, and welcome. If you're just joining us, please like, subscribe, follow. And if you feel like you learned something, you can also comment. I appreciate your time today for being a part of us. Thank you, Hassan, for being here. Stay well and have a great day.